Jabuki parentheses, just because we killed MLK doesn't mean we can't miss him from Twitter.
More famously from The Daily Show, but yes, Jabuki from Twitter.
Nope, not for me.
Not for you, no. Jabuki for this extremely online motherfucker over here. Jabuki from Twitter. Doesn't know who Nathan Lane is, but can quote Jabuki tweets.
Man, I hate that. I don't like that. What that says about me. Welcome to Dima's Chicken Wraps presents Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dima.
This week, we become a true crime podcast as we discuss Hulu's Only Murders in the Building. Before we get started, remember you can help us on Mortified, the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, and following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron.
How you feel about true crime?
I don't like it.
That's the thing. I feel like neither of us are big true crime people.
Nope. I think it's invasive. I think it's sometimes presented pretty tactlessly. And I have seen multiple people related to victims of true crime say that they don't like having their family's story publicized in the way that it's being publicized. That being said, do I think it's impossible to do it tactfully? No, I just think that a lot of the content that's out there is maybe not great.
Yeah, I think we both come down kind of the same place, which is like a lot of that, especially the kind of stuff that the show lampoons, which is like people like actually starting to try to investigate, real people's real murders. Like, that's a little bit much. Like, I don't know. Like, I think there is definitely an element of like, oh, it's entertaining to try to figure out a case. But yeah, there is a little bit of a ghoulish aspect in true crime that, makes me not really a big fan of it. Also, I'm just not a real mystery guy. I'm not a big fan of Nancy Drew or the Hardy Boys. But we're going to talk about our own set of Hardy Boys, specifically Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. Why did we want to do Only Murders in the Building, actually?
I can't remember.
Because I remember a coworker recommended to me when the first season was airing last year, and it sounded interesting. The cast is already like kind of a big hook. But yeah, I was just like, we needed something to fill. We need a new TV show. And this is like something that is very far outside of our normal niche. We basically never do mysteries. And we very rarely do stuff that's like grounded in like this kind of like live action, but also like ostensibly takes place in the real world sort of stuff. So like this is a big departure from Mortified. That said, I think it was definitely a fun one, and I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah, I had a great time. We'll get into how great of a time each of us had in our talking points, but for now, do you want to summarize what happened?
Yeah, let's give it a shot. So basically, we got three characters: Charles, Hayden Savage, Oliver Putnam, and Mabel Mora. That is, of course, our Steve Martin, our Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, who are all people who live in this swanky New York apartment building. And one night, a fire alarm goes off, everybody leaves the building, and they realize that one of the people in the building has been killed. Ostensibly, it's a suicide, but these three characters, Charles, Oliver, and Mabel, are also true crime heads. So they decide to start their own true crime podcast to investigate this apparent suicide, but because they saw this guy go in an elevator, they think it was actually a murder, and basically they start investigating it, and we start to learn a lot of secrets about each of these three people. Like Mabel actually used to be friends with Tim Kono, who is the murdered guy, but then there's a bunch of weird twists and turns. At one point, Sting is involved. But in the end, it turns out that Charles's bassoon-playing girlfriend, who also lives in the building, was the person who did it, and they save the day, and it's great. And that kind of, it was a quick summary, but like a lot of it is character work and kind of filling in the spaces between. And I think that's where the show is strongest. I think the mystery itself is fine. I think that's probably kind of the thing with all mysteries. is that the process of solving it is much more interesting than the actual mystery itself. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I do think, yeah, they go down a lot of false pathways for a little while, but it was fun to like follow along and see everything only from their perspective. And there were moments. There's a moment where they discover a bassoon cleaner in the murdered guy's sex toy box, and I knew what it was. I knew that was some sort of woodwind cleaner. And like, it was fun to stand there folding laundry and go, like, you know, be kind of clued in. So I thought that was really fun. And the show wasn't like self-serious enough that it felt dramatic parentheses, serious. It was like dramatic parentheses entertainment value. So yeah, it was a really good time.
Yeah, for a show that is ostensibly about a grisly murder, you know, it's got a pretty light tone. It is billed as a comedy, and it is genuinely very funny. So, yeah, I liked it quite a lot. Let's to dig into why we enjoyed it. Shall we talk about our characters, starting with Mr. Steve Martin?
Steve Martin did a great job. Charles Hayden Savage is a retired actor who used to be a cop on TV. He was Brazos. And he is a loner, and so all three characters struggle with loneliness in some way. They have some big secret to hide. His is that his girlfriend left him, and with her went her little daughter Lucy, who he had grown really attached to. So he's been by himself and cooking Lucy's favorite omelet and throwing it out for like years now. But yeah, he is. I thought he was great. The entire show has this thing where like some of the dialogue's a little bit contrived, and it almost plays like. Do you remember when Willy's Wonderland? We were like, this is a video game movie because the protagonist just walks into a room and people start monologuing at him. Yeah. It was like that, like especially with Mabel's mom. There's a scene where the two of Martin Short and Steve Martin walk up to her, and she just starts like trauma dumping. And so, but I mean, like, it's Steve Martin and Martin Short, so they're funny, so it worked.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism. There is a lot of trauma dumping that just spontaneously happens in the show, but like, listen, you got to suspend your disbelief, and I think it ultimately served the plot. Yeah, I liked Charles as a character. I'm a sucker for a sad old guy. You know, I think that there's a very, like, one of the things that we didn't get resolved because we only watched season 1, was that, like, it seems like he's dying, which was my first character note about him, because like his nose is always bleeding, and in the middle of episode 4, he starts hallucinating Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig in a way that I was like, oh, this man has memory issues. And his nose is bleeding, and at one point, Selena Gomez's character is like, "Oh, is it cancer? Because you have to tell me if it's cancer." And it's like, I think there probably is something wrong with him, but like, you know, I think it's they leave a little bit about every character still mysterious, which I think is smart. You know, that's how you keep people hooked. But overall, I thought he had a very good performance. I think he was a very convincing, like, sad old guy who's like sort of trying to make connections again, like especially his relationship with Jan, the murderer for a long time. Like, I think he was such a funny old man when he's always just like, yeah, you know, like they have a very sexy Scrabble game where they're like trying to like sext each other over Scrabble, and it's like the worst thing ever because it's so gross, but also it's very funny. Or like he like asks how to sign text messages because he's trying to text Mabel, and him and Oliver are like, oh, should we call? They're like, oh, the young people don't like phone calls. How should I sign my text to her? And then it cuts to her receive the text, and it's like, aloha, Mabel. And it's like, all right. Yeah, he's a very funny old man. I think he does a great job. There's a bit at the end where it gets like kind of like slapstick, like Steve Martin does physical comedy in a way that I was like, all right, I guess you did create the show, Steve. You get to do your dumb stunt here. But like, yeah, I think Charles is a pretty good, main character.
I'm a big fan of physical comedy. I kind of miss it. I think it's part of the reason why I like the Sonic movies so much. It's because Jim Carrey just does really good physical comedy. But yeah, and you bring up the flirting. I really liked the him playing the concertina to Jan while she played the oboe back, and it was like I forget what exact order the songs went in, but she started at one point she started playing Do You Think I'm Sexy, and he started playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game in return.
Yes.
And like I thought that was so fun. Like me and
Yeah.
who, you know?
Listen, aspiring Leyla quarters, take notes. How do you feel about Oliver?
I'm a theater kid, right? Like I know,
Yeah.
I've met so many Olivers. I know
Unfortunately.
people who are gonna grow up to be Olivers. I think he's a riot. I think one of the best character choices they made was having a flashback to him, and he had his hair in a ponytail. It was like 17 years before the story starts, and also he. Every time, like, anything comes up, he groups himself with Selena Gomez to be like, what did he say? Put the weight on the youth.
Yeah, yeah, no. It's, Oliver, his whole thing is that he's, like, kind of a failed, washed-out theater director, producer. Like, his biggest flop was a show called Splash, the musical, and the reason that it flopped was because, like, they had like, a pool built into the stage, but, like, the opening night, like, the floor didn't descend to reveal the pool, so all the chorus boys, dived one after another, and just smacked and hit the floor, and then when Charles is like, all of them? Oliver's like, those chorus boys tend to stick together.
Yeah, one of the funniest lines I've ever heard.
So fucking funny. But yeah, no, there's also like some fucking, like, he talks about how he was like billed to produce Singing in the Rain 2 also, which is just like a bunch of very funny like concepts for a failed
What was the other one? Tuesday at Bernie's?
Tuesdays at Bernie's, which is a mashup of Tuesdays with Maury and Weekend at Bernie's.
And he said he used a real corpse for it, which is how he knows what formaldehyde smells like.
Yes, so fucking funny. Yeah, I mean, like, I think as a character, I hate him because, I mean, no, I think as a character, he's great. As a person, I hate him. Like, I would hate to have to talk to him in any way. Another funny character trait of his is that he never eats real food. It's only ever dips and hummuses, and like to a degree that like everybody around him knows. Like the landlord at one point when Oliver comes in to like ask him to sponsor him, he like the landlord signs to his son who uses ASL and is deaf, like, hide the hummus, he has a problem, which is just like, I think that's just such a funny character choice to be like, I will only eat hummus.
Because he says it's efficient. You use your fingers and containers.
Yeah, he's a nightmare person. Oliver's great. I mean, like, I don't know that his like story that like he's always borrowing money and he's always needs money is like that interesting, but it worked into the plot in a way that I was like, okay, this is fine. And like his relationship with like his estranged son is pretty cool. His son who is a vet, and you know, I liked all that. I like Oliver.
Yeah, he gave a fun performance. I thought Selena Gomez as Mabel was great.
Yes, I think Mabel's my favorite character. Not just because she is like almost exactly our ages, but and also, you know, I have a lot of goodwill built up over, you know, watching her from over the years with her work on Wizards of Waverly Place. You know, big. Yeah, Selena is part of my childhood at least, so I'm glad to see that she is still working. My wife told me that she like got lupus or something at some point, and that's why she had to stop. Like she had like a crazy disease. But like, you know, I really liked her character as Mabel. I think she delivers her lines. Like Mabel has this weird persona that she's like very stilted and like kind of stiff. Maybe not stiff, but like she comes off the way that her lines are delivered that does seem like restrained in a way that I really liked. I liked the character choice that she made, and I mean, I think as a character, Mabel's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. So she had lupus. She underwent a kidney transplant because of the lupus.
God. Wow.
Yeah, in 2015. What I know about her is that she's a bipolar queen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Congrats. We love people with bipolar disorder.
Well, you know, no, I think it's lovely of her to like. She talks about it very openly, which is rare. Like bipolar is one of the more stigmatized, mental illnesses. Mm-hmm. So it's always nice when a celebrity, especially a really well liked one, right? Like Selena Gomez is very popular. Like, it's good of her to do that kind of be that open about it, right? And just be out there. No. But in terms of Mabel, I just thought you always kind of run into a risk, right? Where like when you have a show that's clearly written by older people, when they write young characters, they can kind of be like not true to what younger people or people our age are like. Yeah. But I have a feeling Selena Gomez had a lot of creative say in this, especially because there's a lot of like there's interviews out there of her, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, and they talk about how she like teaches them slang on set, and she's like, they're so old.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like there's jokes in the thing where they're trying to say the word rando, and like Oliver's like, a rando is a person of little significance or little merit, and then Charles is like, yeah, I got that from context clues, idiot. But like, yeah, there's a lot of like jokes about slang and being young and using technology that like do make sense, and they're like current enough to the modern era that it seems like at least somebody who is younger got a hand on the ball.
Yeah, there was Rando and there was some other one. But it was like it felt natural, right? And it felt like a young person, definitely. I wouldn't be too surprised if it was one of those things she taught them on set and then they kind of ad-libbed it into the script or edited it into the script. Yeah. But yeah, it felt very like truly three nerds met in a diner booth, now they're friends, and it's like it's just fun, right? Like it's a fun little trio.
Mm-hmm. I think they're great. I think Mabel does have to do a lot of the heavy lifting emotionally here because like, her relationship with Tim Kono, the deceased, like is a central plot point to the whole season. So we do have to get a lot of like Mabel's backstory and the history with her and Tim and Oscar and Zoe also, which were like her four friends that traipsed around the Arconia, but despite that, I think she does just have some really shining moments, and I loved her as a character. I thought she was great.
Yeah, I also really liked all the way she was styled in the show. All her outfits were really, really good.
Yeah. God, just when they are recapping the show at like the last episode, she's talking about her great yellow jacket, and then Oliver's like, and then we had that moment about your Beats, because the first thing he says to her, she's like wearing her Beat headphones, is he like looks at her in the elevator and he's like, do you like your Beats? And she just kind of looks at him and then looks away. It's just like extremely good.
He had a pair of yellow ones that died.
Hysterical.
So next up on our list is Tim Kono, the murderee, the victim. So I really like the beginning of the show because no one likes Tim Kono.
Yes. Very funny.
He is a finance guy, a bit of a dick. And you find out that that's kind of how him and Mabel became friends, because she was like, he was mean, but he was honest. Like, he'd never lie to you. Mm-hmm. And so we got a lot of fun flashbacks of like Mabel and Tim bonding and then, introducing Oscar and Zoe. But yeah, Tim, I thought it was interesting we got his narration at the last episode. Like, this show is grounded in reality, but there is like a surrealist element to it that I think helps the comedy element of the like grim subject matter. Yeah. I thought anytime he was on screen, he was a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I like I think they only do the narration like at the very opening of every episode. I think they get like different people's perspectives from at the beginning, and like that kind of colors how the episode goes. Like we'll talk about that with Theo in episode 7. But yeah, no, I think Tim was effective, right? They set him up as an asshole, but like, because of the history that him and Mabel have, you kind of start to feel for him. And then you also get like the complicated relationship he had with Oscar and Zoe. Basically what you need to know, listener, is that there is a separate murder / death that happened at the building like 10 years ago. Basically, Mabel and her 4 friends, including Tim Kono, were at a New Year's Eve party, and her friend Zoe got pushed off the top of the building. Her boyfriend at the time, Oscar, was arrested and sent to jail for 10 years. But Tim saw somebody else arguing with her, that night. And that's like the whole mystery. They're trying to figure out like, what happened. And, Mabel was trying to figure out what Tim knew that he could have said that could have got Oscar off the hook. And that's like kind of a separate side plot that kind of weaves together with the first. Well, I don't know. I guess we can talk about how the A plot and the B plot come together, but like they sort of do like a red herring where it's like this is the actual murder that gets resolved, but then a whole other thing happens. But yeah, I think the flashback stuff is very effective. I think they don't rely too heavily on it, but it's enough to keep the listener engaged and understanding of the story.
Yeah. And then we also have Oscar and Zoe on here. Oscar and Zoe were together at the time. Oscar's just a nice boy, right?
Yeah, he's cool.
He did yoga in prison. He got certified. He's positive as fuck now. I really like him. I thought him and Mabel were cute, right? Like, you could tell they're childhood friends. They're very comfortable around each other. They had good chemistry. Zoe is a little freak.
Yeah, Zoe's one of those people that it's like, oh, I see why you were murdered.
Zoe could have been a character in The Great Gatsby.
Yes, she's extremely that. She's like, sad, full of ennui, but also bitchy.
Yeah, and obsessed with jewels.
Yeah. And that's ultimately why she gets pushed off the top of the Arconia, unfortunately.
Right, because Tim, Oscar, Zoe, and I was going to call her Selena, Mabel, when they would solve mysteries around the Arconia, they would break into people's apartments because Oscar was the son of the superintendent and got a copy of all the keys. They broke into Theo's and Teddy's apartment, which we'll get to Theo and Teddy in a second, took a green ring, and Teddy wanted that fucking ring back. And when Theo went to get it, they got an argument, and the ennui was overwhelming. She started kind of yelling at him and fell off the building. Well, got pushed. So yeah, it's, you can really see, maybe don't have arguments near railings,
Mm-hmm. If you learn anything from this, don't get drunk and then have an argument near a railing.
And then start pushing somebody near a railing and get pushed back.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the murderer.
Jan.
Jan's great. Jan is like probably my second favorite character in this.
Oh, she rules. I want her concert dress.
Yeah, no, she looked great.
She looked great. I want the sleeves, this a beautifully fitted waist. I was like, oh, that's beautiful. That's how you show up to a fucking symphony, Jan. I do have some orchestra nerd complaints. I'm going to make you sit through them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, one, finally, my 10 years of orchestra is useful. When they pulled that oboe cleaner out of Tim's sex toy box, I knew what the fuck that was. It was a woodwind cleaner. It looks like a cat toy. It's like on a long string and it's got like a brush on the end. It's to get all the spit and the gross out of your woodwind instruments. Second of all, love that she was playing Foray's Pavan. Well, she wasn't. It was a recording. But love that song. Sang it in choir a while back. One of my favorite jams. When Charles shows up to her orchestra concert, or her symphony concert, she is sitting where the cellos usually sit. And she was also sitting on the outside of the stand, which means she's a second chair, not a first chair. She lied to him. So I knew that before he figured it out. Because the soloist was a young prodigy. But that's also not where oboists sit, typically. She was sitting on the very outside row. That's not where they sit. That did bother me, but that brings up a different point. They cheat a lot of reality to make this show work. Like, you and I are currently recording a podcast. We know that the way they were doing it would not be functional or listenable to.
Their podcast audio would be dog shit.
They're literally like running while recording on an iPhone with a boom mic in the doggy's what is it called? Stroller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it's insane. But, yeah, those are my orchestra kid complaints about her. Otherwise, a shout out to having some love on the bassoon,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Jan is great. She's, I like that she kept trying to accuse Howard of the murder. Like, what do you have against Howard, Jan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting the way that Jan was deployed because, like, for a lot of these kind of stories, like you can't just make it be like the rando side character because that's not very interesting. But like it is nice to have the murder incorporated into like the main character bit for a while, and I liked her relationship with Charles. Right, I liked that bit where they were talking about their feelings for each other, and the Charles' inability to open up, and her whole thing is like being second to everyone. That's her motivation for killing Tim, right? Is that she found out that he had another relationship, and that's why she had to go kill him. But like, yeah, I thought,
was he though? Did she know that for sure?
I think she found a ring in his apartment. She found the ring that Zoe stole.
Yeah,
in her
but he bought that trying to take down the Demases.
Yes, exactly, and like that's the irony of it all, which I think is very good. But yeah, especially like I made this note when I was finding out that she was actually the second chair. I was like, oh yeah, I would become a murderer too if a child showed me up.
Oh yeah, never get into music. Children will show you the fuck up every time.
Yeah, no, that's why I don't play violin anymore. But yeah, no, I think she was a good character and was very well acted. And at the very end when she does like go full murder mode, she was kind of like a weird, quirky, like, wow, this lady has a little bit too much energy. In her. In her previous scenes, but like she becomes full like scary murderer in the last bits, quote unquote scary, like scary for this show. It wasn't like it's not gonna win an Emmy, but like I thought she was still very good. And yeah, I mean I think she was a good villain. And she was also fucking Tim Kono, which is very funny.
She was fucking Tim Kono. I thought that was great. I do like that she committed enough to stab herself.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's how you commit to the bit. That's how you throw them off your trail.
Stabbed herself and then washed off the knife and put it in her bathroom vent while stabbed.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. I don't know. I feel like she probably should have just like kept the knife in her drawer somewhere and not left it in the vent. I feel like that's a little bit silly, but it's whatever.
So is labeling her pillbox Jan's little toxins.
Okay,
which I thought was great. That's
fun. Yeah, this show's not that serious.
Toxins with a heart.
With the heart off for the O, yes. Extremely funny.
Oh, she's great, and her last name is Bellows, which is...
Sure.
Yeah.
Why the hell not?
Sure. So Teddy and Theo Dima is my favorite celebrity cameo in here, which is fucking Nathan Lane.
Oh, is that who Theo was?
That's who Teddy was.
I don't know who Nathan Lane is.
Nathan Lane is the voice of Timon. Yeah, he's like giga famous.
I know who Timon is. I don't know who Nathan Lane is.
Wow. Don't know how you've avoided him.
If Nathan Lane was in Kingdom Hearts 2, then I probably would have known.
Let's fucking look.
But Timon, no. Well, here's the thing. Timon was in Kingdom Hearts 2.
I don't think they got Nathan Lane for Kingdom Hearts. Okay,
I'm just saying, Timon's face doesn't look like that.
He was in The Producers.
Oh, I've seen The Producers.
Yeah, he was the evil one.
Sure. But yeah, their whole thing is that like, Teddy used to work alongside Oliver. He was like his business partner. But then because of his bad musicals, he lost a lot of money. But then Teddy goes ahead and becomes the, what do you call it? The sponsor for Only Murders in the Building, which is why they call it Dima's Chicken Wraps presents Only Murders in the Building, which is extremely funny. It's a weird like side mystery because it turns out that Teddy has been laundering like jewelry from the people who die in the building, and that's he making like a small side hustle.
I don't think it was just people who die in the building. I think he had a either owned or his son worked at a funeral home, and then after the viewing he would take the jewelry off the deceased, and that's why he had all those urns from that funeral home in his this hidden closet.
Yes, in the secret closet. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, like that's the whole thing is that Theo, the son, was actually the person who pushed Zoe off the top of the building, 10 years ago because, he had a crush on her and she kind of like flirted with him. I mean, she heavily flirted with him.
She like felt him up.
Yeah, in an elevator, like, 'cause she's nasty. But then like, she's a freak. Like, listen, get it, girl. But, with this, she has this big argument with Oscar, and then like at the end, like when Theo comes up and he's like, he's not good for you, and he's like, okay, can I have that ring back? My dad's really upset because the dad thinks that he like gave it to her, which is not the case, and he doesn't want to be like, yeah, I mean, she definitely robbed us. But like, that's when they get in the fight, and then, she starts pushing him because she has like this entire like freak out and she's drunk. And then, unfortunately she does get pushed off the roof of a building, which, that'll happen. But then to cover it up, basically he tells his dad, Teddy tells Tim, who is the only witness, that if he doesn't, blame Oscar, then maybe something bad will happen to him or Mabel, which is why Tim kept it a secret all these years, and why this tragedy ultimately happened, and ultimately why Tim died, right? Because if none of that had happened, right, that ring wouldn't have ended up back in his possession, and Jan wouldn't have tried to kill him.
Yeah, because he got obsessed with chasing Nathan Lane's jewelry side hustle subsidiary, Angel Inc.
Yeah.
I thought they were great. I liked that they had multiple actors learn a bit of ASL for this.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often. I'm not a good judge of whether or not it's good ASL, right? I only was exposed to it for like 4 years, and I'm very clumsy with it. I can order a coffee. That's be polite. That's kind of the extent of it. If I'm checking out for groceries and the clerk at the till is deaf, I can be polite to them. That's all I got for you. But I thought that was nice. I really liked the episode we got from Theo's perspective.
Yes, I think that was really cool.
It was cool. It barely had any dialogue in it. It was, spoken dialogue. A lot of it was subtitled. You learned how good he is at reading lips. You kind of learn that he hates everyone. He's pretty antisocial. And like, I don't know. I thought it was a good perspective. It was interesting. I really liked. I like how playful this entire show is, right? It just kind of like try shit. We're big fans of that around here.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, if you're going to do something like this, you might as well have a weird, quote-unquote, artsy episode, right? Like, I guess the thing that I'm thinking of is BoJack Horseman did an episode similar where they just, like, it was all underwater, so there was no dialogue. And, like, people thought that was, like, so cool and great. And, it was interesting. I'm glad they tried it. But, like, I think this one does it a lot more effectively.
Yeah. I like that underwater episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode, but I liked. I don't know that Teddy's motivations. I think the like jewelry side hustle business is weird. I don't know that it makes like a whole lot of sense, but like it is kind of interesting that is like the thing that ties Tim back into the story. And ultimately ends to his death. I think that's good. It gives Theo motivation. It gives Tim motivation. It gives Mabel motivation. So I think it works as a storytelling mechanism, if not like story doesn't make sense in the story as much, but that's fine. But yeah, I think they were effective villains.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one is Detective Williams, who is a repeat offender on this podcast, played by Divine, who was Beth in The Lost City.
Yeah, I mean, she's great. Like, the first introduction we get to her is, like, the three, like, sneaking up, trying to get into Tim's apartment. And she's like, what fucking true crime bullshit are you hooked on, you fucking weirdos? Get the hell out of this investigation. Get out of this apartment. I hate you all so much.
Yeah, we get a good episode from her perspective, too, where her and her wife are, like, arguing about what to name the baby, but she finds out that her wife is hooked on the Only Murders in the Building, the podcast. Yes. And then that's what gets her to go back in and realize that, like, one, she is spending just as much time at the office as the investigator she exactly does not want to become, who has, like, no life and no friends. And two, that the toxicology report for Tim Kono and his cell phone never went to Tox or IT. And that's what gets her to not officially reopen the investigation, but perhaps to legally give the phone over to the true crime podcasters, which works great in a TV show. not in real life.
Yeah, no. You shouldn't do that. Listen, ACAB, but also...
Yeah, ACAB for pulling over a woman and then being like, oh, I'm gonna marry her someday.
Yes, fuck Detective Williams for that. But also, like it is very funny to be like, well, the police are useless, so we're going to hand it over to podcasters now. But I think that I really liked that episode about her and her wife, because it does like really set up her motivation for trying to help the investigation, because like there's so much stuff going on with her at home. And like they're like having this argument about, Detective Williams is like trying to quit smoking, which is very hard, and also has a very stressful job. And her wife is just like, I just want you to be here. Like Detective Williams and her wife have this conversation, and eventually she's like, okay, you know what? There is something that I missed, and my wife was able to alert me to this because of the podcast. Maybe, I don't want to lose my job, so I'm not gonna actually investigate further, but I am gonna help these people out. And like it does set up like that. That's for me a motivation that works for this kind of story. And I'm glad they did devote enough time to telling that story. I thought that was nice.
Yeah. Overall, there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, this show's really, really fun. At some point they were trying to figure out who Tim was sleeping with, and they were like, Martin Short had this whole he, him, they, them, they, him, they. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really cute. Yeah, they did a lot of fun stuff with storytelling. And like, I'm glad that, like, as corny as it sounds to say, like, I'm glad it was a quote-unquote, like, diverse show, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's... Listen, there's definitely shows that, like, try to do diversity and fail, but, like, this one, it just felt like you can't do a story about New York and then have it be only white people and then a couple token, people of color. And I feel like, the various people of color in this story, like, feel real and not like they were just kind of schlepped in there.
Especially the therapist who now takes crypto.
Yes, that guy was... that dude was unfortunately very real.
That dude was unfortunately also maybe one of the funniest characters.
Hysterical. All the side characters are very good in the way that like you kind of expect from like a story that takes place in New York, is that everybody's a little bit batshit.
As they should be.
As they should be.
All right. Well, let's talk about, speaking of batshit.
Yeah. Speaking of other characters that maybe didn't work so well for us.
So this show is very much... hey, holy shit, look at all these celebrity cameos, which, hey, a lot of them I really liked, right? They got Jabuki, White.
That was incredible when I found that. I was like, that dude's Jabuki?
That's fucking Jabuki. When I saw him...
Jabuki... Jabuki, parentheses, just because we killed MLK doesn't mean we can't miss him from Twitter.
More famously from The Daily Show, but yes, Jabuki from Twitter.
Nope, not for me.
Not for you, no. Jabuki for this extremely online motherfucker over here. Jabuki from Twitter. Doesn't know who Nathan Lane is, but can quote Jabuki tweets.
Man, I hate that. I don't like that. What that says about me.
My favorite one was Jane Lynch, who played Steve Martin's stunt.
Who's also a woman, and they're like, that's very, very progressive for the early 90s.
Who also stole his girlfriend?
Yes, so funny.
Jane Lynch has just such a withering way of delivering lines. Mm-hmm. I've loved her since Glee, okay? I was an original Gleek. Like...
Man, I hate that we share that.
Listen, the fucking entertainment was troubling.
The early 2010s were a wasteland, and we were just teenagers, baby.
We were just teenagers, and it was so rare to see theater kids recognized. Thank you, Ryan Murphy, I guess. Also, for people who are not familiar with Glee, I do want to just really quick, Mike's Mike on YouTube just did like 4.5 hours summarizing all of Glee. Maybe some of the most engaging internet content I've seen.
Okay, please put that in the show notes for me.
Yeah, I will DM it to you directly. But yeah, and then there was there's a bunch of other people. Again, we said Sting was in it. There was God, there were so many. I feel like every episode there was someone new, but I just binged it, so my memory's not all that great. We do want to talk about one person.
So there is the true crime podcast that they're all friends with, or they all became friends over, is called Something's Not Okay in Oklahoma or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's it.
And it's hosted by Cinda Canning, who is like whoever hosted Serial. She's like that. She's like a weird, like, I don't know, NPR type, but also like true crime queen. So she's played by Tina Fey. And we've talked about some Tina Fey properties on this show before, specifically with Mean Girls. And like, listen, I think her character works completely well. That's the character that you kind of want, is to be like kind of like a hot, not a hot shot, but like kind of like a conceited like podcast empire person. Like that's how we aspire to be once Mortified gets that great sponsorship that we've been waiting for. But like yeah, I just don't like Tina Fey because of the racism.
Yeah. When did you sour on her?
Probably around the time when we watched Mean Girls, and then I had to reckon with Tina Fey's legacy. And there's a lot of stuff about her, especially with her writing in 30 Rock, and like apparently, I think you told me about this, but she did an episode that was very much like, I can't be. It's not racist if a black person does it, and it's like, Tina, you didn't need to do this.
Yeah, so that's an episode. That was when I soured on her. That's an episode of Kimmy Schmidt. Is that what that show's called? Which I really liked season 1 of. But this episode in season 2 was kind of the last straw for me. It was basically the black character whose name escapes me wanted to do a geisha show, a one-man geisha show, and so he dressed up as a geisha, and the whole message of it was that like, why do people care if like characters of color are miscast? Basically, it's okay that Scarlett Johansson is in Ghost in the Shell kind of message, right? Mm-hmm. And that was when I was like, I don't like the way you think, lady. And like, we haven't covered it, but Mean Girls the musical just did not translate well. Like, I think Mean Girls the musical and Heathers the musical were kind of up around the same time. Heathers is a little bit earlier. Heathers does a really great job of translating the film. It does a really good job of like trimming down the fat on the film and telling just a really concise, engaging kind of black satire or dark satire. And then Mean Girls the musical is just like a hollow, lifeless echo of the movie. And the music is bad, and it's not charming, and it's not good. And I kind of only like 2 songs. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Tina Fey, but I'm not a huge fan of it. So seeing her on the screen always just kind of like, whatever, right? I don't think she's an awful person, but I'm like, really? You're here too?
Yeah, it's sort of the same way that I feel about like James Corden, which is like, oh, he's like a person that got famous, but also has like kind of some like shitty backstory and like just like is in way too many things for the quality of performance he gives. And it's just like, okay, I'm kind of over him. So not a fan. And it seems like she's going to play a big part in season 2 because like her whole thing is she's going to be doing a podcast about the podcast because at the end of season 1, they all rush down and get arrested because Selena Gomez / Mabel like accidentally presumably murders their supervisor, their superintendent, Bunny. So like that's she's like making a podcast called Only Murderers in the building. And like I'm just not interested in seeing Tina Fey smugly narrate several episodes. One is enough for me.
Yeah, hopefully she's not in it too much. I haven't really looked at the IMDb.
I'm sure it won't be too much. I'm sure it won't hamper your enjoyment of it. But like for me, it's like I'm not that interested. And that also leads into my next talking point. You're just gonna have to sit through this. But like, I don't love that the show started with season 2 in mind. Like the show opens with the end of this, of the episode 10, which is like a thing that was sent to set up season 2, which like, you know, with them all coming in on Mabel over this body. And like, I don't like that as a storytelling choice. I wish that they had just kept it contained to season 1. You know, and a lot of season 2 does seem like it is just like, you know, this is a show that knew it was going to have more than one season, right? Because there's a whole apparently side love interest with Cara Delevingne, which like is fine. I'm glad that they're going to be doing that. I'm glad they're going to be talking about, you know, they're going to be making Mabel like a bisexual, like openly bisexual character. I think that, I mean, that's all well and good, but like as somebody who, you know, is constantly railing against the franchisation of media, you know, maybe that's not the right point. You know, maybe this is a different point. It's not, having a second season is not a franchise, but it does not a franchise make. But, you know, I think I would have just liked this story more if it was contained to the one season, and seeing how far ahead they had planned it out kind of bums me out. That's not saying that any of it is bad, but it's kind of a taste thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm okay with the season 2 of it all being planned. I would actually rather, for a show like this, I would actually rather know that they had an idea for season 2 at the beginning, at the outset, rather than feel like, oh, it's successful, let's think of a season 2.
That's fair.
1, 2, I think contained, anything less than 3 seasons to me, or less than 4 seasons to me, feels contained. You know what I mean? Like a 3-season show, if it's planned for 3 seasons, that's fine to me. I think it's when you get into 30 Rock and The Office territory where it just keeps fucking going.
Yeah.
Supernatural. Americans don't know how to end shows.
I mean, we talk about anime on this program all the time. We're looking at you, Mr. Oda from One Piece. Like, I'm sure you've been doing great, but like that anime should have ended maybe 10 years ago.
Bleach doesn't know how to end.
Even a lot of Naruto Shippuden does not need to be there.
Doesn't need to be there. Yeah, that's fair. But I think I meant more like live action comedies don't know how to end. I feel like that's a different
100%.
That's a different brand.
I mean, you know, like how many seasons did fucking Friends run for, right? Like this is a thing that's been going on for forever.
Right. It's not like Steve Martin is getting new superpowers every season. That would be funny, right?
Yes, I want Steve Martin to have a fucking transportation secrets. Yeah, I want him to blow up the planet Namek.
Yeah. That would be, hey, hire us, Hulu. Yeah, I'm actually going to watch season 2 just because this was like a fun, light watch for me while I was doing a shit ton of laundry, right? Like, I wasn't wholly paying attention to it. I wasn't like wholly invested. It was just a good, fun time. And I can ignore Tina Fey. I'm a big fan of Steve Martin is the thing. So, I will be. I like that he uses anything he's in as an excuse to play an instrument on camera. This time around was the concertina, which is an instrument I am actively hunting. If anybody's got an English one with 32 keys, fucking hit me up. I might, especially if it's black, I'll buy it. I've been trying to hunt down a used one for a minute. But yeah, I thought this was enjoyable. The thing I think that soured me towards the end is our next talking point is I don't understand where this show lands on true crime, because it seemed like it actually was kind of making fun of true crime for most of it, and then at the end it was like it brought us all together. I was like, are you talking about this specific story, or are you trying to make a point about true crime?
That's the thing. I don't think it has a stance on true crime. I think it is just trying to be like, you know, these things are funny. These things about people who listen to podcasts are funny. And like, you know, I think it is lampooning it, but like, because it is a comedy, because it is supposed to end on a lighthearted note, I think it's just like, and then we all came together and it was nice. Like, I truly think it doesn't, it is using the true crime framing and, you know, trying to make some jokes, but nothing more. Like, I really don't think it's that invested in talking about the, you know, history or ideology of true crime podcasts. Yeah,
that's fair. That was the only part where I was like, I don't know. I do wonder if we're missing anything, having not listened to a bunch of true crime, at least the major ones.
True.
Like if there's references.
We could have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, as a true crime hater, not in the sense that I hate all true crime, but a hater, as in I drink a lot of haterade about it. Not that I talk about it very often, but yeah.
Listen, if you want a true crime stand, go check out the Bible Boys, where, of course, one of our Bible Boys... It's Michael. Of course it's Michael.
It's fucking Michael.
It is a big true crime fan, so you can get all your true crime love over on the Bible Boys. But speaking of the Bible Boys, another extremely important question that you've brought up in our show notes is... who would Selena Gomez play on The Prince of Egypt?
Listen, Steve Martin and Martin Short were the fucking priests in The Prince of Egypt.
Exactly, right.
They did Playing with the Big Boys Now, which is a banger. Mm-hmm. I love that song.
One of the best songs of that, yeah.
Who would Selena Gomez play?
So...
if they're a trio now, I have to know.
Yeah, here's the thing. I would love for her just to be a third weird priest, but I don't know that that's... I don't know, she could do... Yeah, I don't know, like maybe she could be like the head priestess and like sick her like, you know, kind of dumb lapdogs on Moses. But yeah, I don't know if that, like, I don't want her to play like Miriam. I don't really want her to play Pharaoh's wife. I do want her just to have kind of like a funny side bit.
Really? Because my thought was Miriam.
I mean, she could do it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, listen. We're all talking. Nobody was cast accurately in this show, right?
Oh,
in this movie.
Everyone in Prince of Egypt is white.
so, you know, we're just kind of riffing here. Yeah, I think perhaps either a priest's apprentice or perhaps some sort of, maybe she did some mummification or like took care of some dead bodies. I think that would be fun too.
Yeah.
I think she has that kind of withering capability.
Although I would love the Prince of Egypt spinoff where Selena Gomez and her two priests have to raise her to fight the Hebrew god Yahweh. I think that would be a great anime spinoff of the Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, similar to that Jesus and Buddha anime that was going around for a minute. Yeah, I think there's enough.
You're gonna have to tell me that off air because that's gonna be on my whole weekend.
Oh, they're roommates.
Oh, okay, that rules. Never mind. That's incredible. That's all I need to know.
Great. It's a fun time. So, Aaron, you have a similarly bonkers marketing minute here.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, this seems like something that, because Steve Martin was the creator of the show,
and John Hodgman.
Oh, with John Hodgman?
Yeah, they co-wrote
John
it, I think.
Hoffman.
Oh, is it Hoffman?
Yes.
Never mind.
But like, you know, Steve Martin had a big role in this, and like, I don't want to be mean, this is not a slight against Mr. Martin, but like, it does seem like he's kind of like done doing like huge incredible roles. Like, you know, my understanding of Steve Martin is like he was very popular in the, you know, for me, like mid 90s to, you know, mid 2000s. Like, I know him from, you know, of course, Prince of Egypt, but also Cheaper by the Dozen for some reason.
Yep.
A show that I don't think was very good. But I
did
see it.
We're a series of movies.
Oh, okay. So it's a series. Okay.
I think.
I only remember seeing the one, and that was in like 2006. So who the fuck knows? But, you know, it seems like Steve Martin is kind of just like at a place in his career where he can do whatever he wants. And like, that's why he has all these like incredible cameos and like just chilling with Martin Short and Selena Gomez. And like, yeah, like I was thinking, you know, Leyla, once you've done your magnum opuses, you know, you've done Tuesdays with Bernie the musical,
mm-hmm.
you know,
with a real corpse.
Yeah, like, you know, you think that, you know, probably your best projects are behind you, but you still have like a lot of time and money and prestige to like just kind of fuck around. You know, what fun, indulgent projects with your famous friends would you like to try?
So when you say my best projects are behind me, I'm assuming you mean when we're famous Disney executives.
Yeah, this is like afterwards, like, you know, this is after we've done Disney Renaissance 2.
Yeah. So I want to do a comedic documentary about our rise. That's what I want to do. I want to executive produce that. And so I have a sub question, which is, who would you like to play you in that?
See, this is always a problem with me because, like, I have to go and Google names of Indian actors. And, like, I think I've said Dev Patel before, but, like, I feel like Dev Patel's, like, a little too old. Like, I don't know. He'd have to change his facial hair a little bit. I feel like I no, Calpen does not look anything like me at all. I mean, to be fair, neither does Dev Patel. But I just want like some brown guy basically. I don't know if you have any recommendations, but
I don't know if I have any recommendations. I myself am hoping maybe one of the Kardashian children will grow up to have like an acting career.
Interesting.
Listen, I gotta get Armenians employed.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
So
I guess I mean like for me like the actual true answer is Ifran Khan, but unfortunately he passed away. But
we can hologram him in.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm sure he sold his rights to some.
Yeah. We'll pay his estate billions.
Yeah, it'll be great. That would be. I would love to be played by a weird hologram. That would be incredible.
What about you? What's your self-indulgent past your prime project? We'll say past your physical prime because I feel like Steve Martin's doing great.
I mean, fucking Steve Martin had an incredible 5-minute sequence where he flopped around on his back.
Yeah, knees of steel on that man.
Yeah, that dude does not seem like he's out of his physical prime yet. I could not do that shit. God, the thing is that it would be the Kingdom Hearts musical, but that's probably going to be part of our rise to power in Disney exec form.
It'll be covered in my documentary for sure.
Yeah. It might be something weird. It might be a weird I feel like there's definitely room for a slate of tabletop RPG comics, a story about the tabletop RPG scene, and I can just hire all my famous friends who are artists to illustrate that, and that would be very fun.
That would be very fun. Now I'm just thinking about the fact that if we pitched a Kingdom Hearts musical to Squeenix, I think we could do it. I think there's a market for it.
Yeah, it's people who like Kingdom Hearts because they're all queer theater kids, is my understanding.
They are, but I mean, listen, we've covered the Death Note musical. They're good. They're good. Listen, I'm watching the Ace Attorney ones right now, and I don't know nothing about Ace Attorney. I've never played them. I think they're the most delightful thing I've ever seen. Speaking of physical comedy.
I agree. No, I mean the Kingdom Hearts musical that's built. The numbers are built in. It's just the worlds, right? That's not hard.
No, but I think we could do a 358 or not 358. Not 358. I think we could do an Organization 13 centered one where we don't have to do the worlds.
I just want an Organization 13 office comedy.
Yeah,
that's the TV show that I want actually.
Yeah, I want Zemnis's shitty motivational posters.
I want this scene where fucking Demix gets called in and he's just looking around at all the shitty, terrible motivational posters. And then there's there's one of those little click clack balls on Zemnis's desk. And he goes to play with it, and then Zemnis comes in. He's just and God, that'd be great.
I want the Larxene Regina George scene where she has a burn book and photocopies the pages and throws it all around Castle Oblivion.
God, so much potential with Organization 13. But unfortunately, we've derailed our episode by talking about Kingdom Hearts again.
I think that means we've ramped it back to where it's supposed to be.
This is where all roads lead to Kingdom Hearts here at Mortified Inc. Leyla, when we are not trying to give away just billions and billions of dollars of the greatest concepts the Disney Corporation has ever heard, where can we be found on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. I did just post something very cute. I posted an entire, very small screenshot of the entire timeline of my webcomic. I spent 5 hours in a daze just scripting out the whole thing. So there's movement on that, which is very fun. Hopefully I'll actually be able to work on it soon. Aaron, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at AaronSXO, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. I will have, the day this episode drops, I will have a new tabletop RPG review / personal essay out. It's about the game Clean Spirit, but it's also about my last 3 moves and how my relationship with that text influenced my feelings about my moves. It's sad. It's a big surprise. But that'll be, if you're interested in that, check that out. I've got another podcast that we just referenced that's at The Bible Boys, where me and my ex-evangelical friends Michael and Josh talk about Christian media and either praise or condemn it. Not sure what we're doing this week, but I'm sure it'll be spectacular. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, as we, play our duet out with our listeners, what do we want to leave them with?
Just the thought that the concertina can be very haunting.
We'll see you all next week. Oh, God, really? That was an hour?